I call this meeting to order. This is the Finance and Government Operations Committee of the City Council, the City Council. All members are present. I believe Councilor Peña is on Zoom this evening in attendance. This is a hybrid meeting where all participants will be in person or on video or on audio conference. Members of the public have the opportunity to address the committee if they have signed up for public comment per the rules published on the agenda and our website by Friday. We will call for speakers when we get to them on the individual agenda items that you signed up for. Here are the public comment rules. Comments are to be addressed to the committee members only. Each participant has 2 minutes to present, and any disruptive conduct will result in removal from the meeting. That being said, we will move on to agenda item A, EC 312. EC 312 is declaring not essential for municipal purposes property located at 2245 Louisiana Boulevard and approving the exchange agreement for property located at San Mateo and Cutler, formerly known as Chemo Park. I move for approval. Seconded by Councilor Baca, as I blanked on your name for a minute there. Any discussion, guys? Councilor Lewis, or Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First thing that I'm looking at is the city sold Chemo Park property in 2021 for $39,000, but it originally appraised at $90,000 prior to selling it. I don't know, but every other piece of property in the world appraises, or moves up in value. So can you explain the discrepancy there, please?
Council Chair and Councilor Sanchez, we have Jennifer Turner from Municipal Development to speak about real property on that issue.
Mr. Chair and Councilor Sanchez, thank you for the questions. So there were 3 appraisals done by the city for the property formerly known as Chemo Park. The first, which you referenced, was from 2017, and it appraised it at $90,000. We did advertise the property for sale, and we were not able to get any bids on the property because the potential bidders expressed concern about access. It was basically a landlocked fragment of property without any access. Then in 2020, we conducted another appraisal of the property, and that came in at $36,000. And again, it was so low because there was no access and no parking. We advertised the property again then, and then received a proposal for $39,500. And we then sold the property to 2 partners in 2021. The sellers of the property now actually made several improvements to that parcel. They worked with NMDOT to vacate right-of-way, and they also replatted the property to add over 3,000 square feet to the parcel. So then when the city looked at acquiring it back, we had another appraisal done that concluded that this newly expanded, cleaned up property was valued at $30,000, and it was that appraisal that informed our negotiation with the seller for the park today. So again, it's a different property, its size was expanded, and then access is now addressed because the city subsequently acquired a year ago San Mateo Inn, which is adjacent to the property, and so the property that didn't have access then with our purchase did get full access. So that explains the difference in values.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So where is the exact access on San Mateo?
Councilor Chair and, Mr. Chair and Councilor Sanchez, there is access kind of around the back of the Denny's, so immediately north of the park, because the Chemo Park is currently fenced off, and so you kind of have to wind in through the Denny's just north of Chemo Park.
So did that access cost a lot, and are we basically compensating for the value of that added entrance?
Mr. Chair, Counselor Sanchez, again, the initial appraisals of the property were conducted going on 8 years ago now, and then when we sold it in 2020, or 2021, there was no, everyone said there's no access because we did not own San Mateo Inn at the time. And so it was, again, a fragment of property with some NMDOT right-of-way issues. And so we're paying based on the passage of time. Things change, the city's acquisition of the property, and then the seller's negotiations with NMDOT to clear up the right-of-way and also get it replatted. So all those combined support the current appraisal of the property. And I wanted to clarify that the appraisal, it was done by Valbridge Property Advisors, who appraise property for city acquisition all over the city.
Thank you.
Any further questions, guys? I just have a few for you. I get the cost of when you appraised it for $90,000 in 2017 and it sat on the market for 4 years, so that it drops in order to get it to sell. One property's worth $200,000 on Louisiana. This one's worth $3 million, so that's the difference in what's coming out in, I guess, the cash or whatever it may be. So $100,000. Why the extra 30? And I know you have a little wiggle room of 10%, but I'm not looking for the reason. I'm looking for the reason why you used that wiggle room.
Mr. Chair, so all property transactions are a negotiation, and this property in particular, these transactions, it was a swap. So again, it was the Uptown property that you referenced for the Chemo Park property, and we actually had a considerable difference of opinion with the sellers related to the value of the Uptown Park. Our appraisal came in at $200,000. Their appraisal came in at $120,000, and we argued over the value of a few things, but especially the utility easements that, in the seller's view, made the Uptown property not very useful. And so, again, it was a negotiation of those two properties at the same time, and in order to reach a deal that, made everyone a little unhappy, we did raise the property of the Chemo Park. I also want to add that with council strong support, we acquired the San Mateo Inn less than a year ago, and the acquisition of the Chemo Park is really an invaluable addition, and it will provide some outdoor space as well as just serve the purpose of the San Mateo Inn, now the Gateway Young Adult Navigation Center as well. So we had an interest, both the seller and the buyer, we were very interested in what happened to this property, and as we mentioned in the executive communication, acquisition of the of Chemo Park does support the city's plans for the Gateway Young Adult.
Completely understandable. That will lead me into my other question, but again, you appraised the property at 300 and you're selling it for 330. Why the additional 30 if it appraised for 300?
Mr. Chair, so the city and the Real Property Division under my department, we negotiate property sales all the time. And sometimes we end up paying more than the appraised value. That is exactly why the ordinance provides that discretion to go 10% more. And it's really, we're the experts for the city in negotiating these deals. And in this case, to get the deal done, we did go up per the ordinance to that 330 amount. If we hadn't done that, then we potentially would still be arguing over the value of the Uptown property.
So what you're saying is it was worth going up to extra 30,000 in order to acquire the...
It was important, Mr. Chair, it was a critical part of the overall exchange.
Okay. What is the property going to be used for?
Mr. Chair, so Chemo Park would be used for outdoor space to support the folks at the residents at the Gateway Young Adult, and then we're currently working with the design team on a scope and feed to further explore how that space could be used. So we don't have definite plans right now other than it will be used for outdoor space.
for like a park or recreational area. It's not going to be used as a stormwater drain, storage, runoff area.
Mr. Chair, it will be used for recreational space. As far as the drainage issue, we have not yet gotten full design on the project yet, so we have not answered the drainage questions yet. We don't even own it yet. So that will be something that we will look at.
Okay. I only ask that because I know that the draining in the parking lot's an issue. And if we're going to spend 300,000, I'd hate for it to just be an empty rock space for rain runoff. That's really expensive drain. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, understood exactly. And again, we have to address drainage issues. That's part of our process, but our
Very true.
priority right now is the outdoor space.
Okay. I think that covers everything for me. Gentlemen, do you have anything? Does Clarissa, I don't see Counselor Pena on the thing if she has her hand raised, so, okay. Well, we have a motion on the floor in a second. With no other discussion, go to the vote.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Lewis?
Yes.
Counselor Pena? Counselor Pena?
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Champagne?
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
And so 312 passes 5-0. We'll move on to agenda item B, EC 313. This is the mayor's recommendation of award for the We Care training. And I move for approval. Second by Baca, Councilor Baca. This is an executive communication request approval for the mayor's recommendation of the award of the RFP to We Care training and authorize the Community Safety Department to negotiate and enter into a contract for the services outlined in that RFP. The project is essential for providing reality-based training for the ACS respondents and supervisors. The annual contract is valued at $240,000, funded by ACS General Fund. If not approved, the ACS will be unavailable to expand its academy and provide critical training. The service is not currently offered by any other entity. Any questions? Right offhand? Nothing? Okay, Ms. Gonzalez, can you give a brief understanding of what it is?
So, Mr. Chair, Champagne, it's an annual contract provided to ACS for their critical reality-based training for their new responders and supervisors. As far as the contract, I did ask a question and I got a response from Gov Affairs that it could be a one-time agreement or an annual 3-time agreement, depending on the vendor's performance. It could be extended 3 years.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions, comments, discussion? Councilor Pena? Okay. With no discussion, we'll go to the vote.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Lewis?
Yes.
Counselor Pena?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Champagne?
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
And passes on a 5-0. We'll move on to item C, EC 25315. This is the, this is the mayor's recommendation to award for the workers' compensation cost containment services medical bill review. I move for an approval. Second by Councilor Baca. Ms. Gonzalez?
Mr. Chair, this is an RFP for Corbell Healthcare Corporation for medical review services related to the workers' comp claims. It's a 5-year contract, $65,960 annually coming out of the enterprise fund. Corval is a current service provider. If not approved, risk management may fail to reduce workers' compensation costs or meet legal requirements.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Any questions or comments, discussion? Doesn't look like any. That being said, we'll go to the vote.
Counselor Baca,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Peña, Counselor Peña,
I'm going to take that as a yes.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Champagne,
Yes.
passes on a 5-0 vote.
Passes on a 5-0 vote. We'll move on to D, EC 25316, the lease management or land lease and agreement between the City of Albuquerque and Honeywell Federal Manufacturing Technologies. I move for approval.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Sanchez. Let's see, Mr. Manacucci.
Councilor Champagne, or Mr. Chair, members of the FGO, what this EC is it's to finalize a contract between Honeywell Federal Technologies and Manufacturing, who has an office, or I guess an office kind of supply center at the intersection of Columbia Drive Southeast and Alamo Road. These are two warehouses that were built to spec many years ago. This is basically a support agency to Sandia National Labs. It's an equivalent agency in Kansas City. The facility is running out of parking space, and so the city owns the land between the intersection of Miles and Columbia and Girard Boulevard, or Girard Drive. So for that reason, the Honeywell would like to take a small piece of it, about 2.8 acres, and use it to develop additional parking. Honeywell will make improvements to the parking lot, and the city will receive, after a 9-year lease term, will receive the improvements with the land back. At this point in time, the estimated revenue is about $3,018 per month, with a CPA cost indicator built into the price, as the federal law requires on their agreements that their leases have the cost inflation throughout the 9-year period built into a base rate. So that will include that. It will be a 9-year term that the city will have. The estimated price per square foot is 30 cents on the lease.
Empty land. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manacucci. Any questions, comments, concerns, discussion? I just have one. How did you come up with the cost per square foot?
Council Chair, or Committee Chair, we have Richard from Aviation Director here to speak on that. Thank you.
Director?
Chairperson Champagne. So what we do is we base it on fair market value. So when you look at airfield, it's 40 cents. And then when you're looking at the other areas, recent negotiation that we had an LOI with Sky that was taking adjacent property that had a level of elevation with the airport, that was running about 34 to 36 cents. The area you're talking about has elevation issues, is undeveloped. It has a small periphery parking lot, about single lane of spaces that Honeywell had previously. They're using the 2.77 to build out their parking area. So you base it on that for their capital investment of over $500,000. You look at the time period, we started out, in truth, it's about a 26-cent cost per square foot. With a cost inflation of 3%, that gets up to 34 cents. When you average it all out, it comes out to 30 cents.
Thank you, Director. Is there going to have to be a lot of dirt movement and stuff? They're going to pave it, I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of dirt movement. We have an elevation issue in that area, a lot of hills and other pieces, you could say mounds. So there's going to be quite a bit of dirt movement, and then just the asphalt paving. So we estimate it's going to be at least $500,000 for the project.
And that's coming from their pockets, not the city's, correct?
Yes, yes, with that, with their capital investment, and we recover that at the end of the 10 years, or even earlier if they decided to give the property back, since it's on a year-to-year. So we get the benefit of that parking lot if we need to have overflow.
Okay. Are there plans after that 10 years? I mean, if the lease is up or wherever they break the lease and they move on, or after the 10 years, can it be utilized for something else to benefit the city?
Yes, yes, we'll look at other opportunities. We're needing parking space, and when we're looking for future development for our landside projects, it'll be beneficial to us.
Okay. Councilors, any questions? Nothing from Councilor Pena? Okay. That being said, we will go to the vote.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Lewis?
Yes.
Counselor Pena?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Champagne?
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
Passes 5-0. We're just cruising along today, guys. This is awesome. We'll now move on to agenda item E, EC 319. The proposal for funding and implementation of a pilot program to provide comprehensive employment and support program for individuals experiencing homelessness. Move for approval. Second by Councilor Baca. Ms. Stiles.
Mr. Chair and committee, this is a implementation of a pilot program to provide comprehensive employment and support program for individuals experiencing homelessness. It outlines a better way forward, which is a employment and support pilot program, which is aimed at addressing homelessness through employment opportunities and supportive services. It builds on There's a Better Way program that used to exist in the city. This program seeks to provide stable jobs that are focused on environmental maintenance while also offering transportation, housing assistance, mental health care, and substance abuse treatment. The budget is $650,000 allocated by the Solid Waste Department for FY25, and the program will initially employ 16 individuals at $12 an hour. The initiative emphasizes long-term self-sufficiency by integrating job readiness and training support services. And then successes are going to be measured through employment rates, housing stability, and participant satisfaction. So essentially, this program is utilizing the block-by-block program, and they're employing individuals who are currently housed at the Gateway West or the Gateway.
Thank you, Ms. Stiles. I believe we have some speakers on it. First, we'll go to them, and then we'll go to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our first speaker is Anami Das, followed by James Freeman.
Hi, all. Mr. Chair, I will be quick. I wanted to thank and congratulate HHH on creating such an efficient, or not necessarily efficient as much as like effective use of city money. 70% going to wages is incredible. And this is the kind of program that I hope to see duplicated in prison systems to help with the reentry process and to end slavery in New Mexico. Thank you.
James Freeman, followed by Juanita Peralta on Zoom.
Thank you, Garrett. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the FIGO Committee. I am James Freeman from District 4. I speak here fairly frequently, so many of y'all had heard my life experience story. I participated in the original Better Way program approximately 10 times around 2017. The money from that program helped me pay my rent, phone, and internet bills. I'm here today to speak in support of EC 319. I believe this program could be substantially beneficial to other folks. This program promotes responsibility, accountability, and structure. This program gives people a sense of purpose. Some people need a reason to get up and be active every day, and this program provides that. I was homeless in 2016 and 2017. I received a housing voucher and became housed in mid-2017. I believe this program would have significantly helped me in those years. There is no one-size-fits-all solution to reducing homelessness. Some folks need a little assistance and other folks require a lot of help to escape the trappings of homelessness. This program fills a necessary niche to move people out of homelessness and into self-sustainability. As a former unhoused person sleeping on a sidewalk not far from this building, I recognize the incredible benefits of helping folks get into sustainable housing. I read the entire 14-page bill. I hold degrees in human services, social work, and sociology. I believe the literature review and sourcing for this bill are outstanding. This program is evidence-based, follows best practices, and as y'all know, when I disagree with the administration, I certainly let y'all know I believe this is a great program. I strongly urge your support today for EC 319. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm not currently seeing Juanita Peralta in Zoom. So I think that does conclude comments on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cornelius. Councilor Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So so my understanding is that this would provide, or this services would be provided for those that, is that my understanding that is for those that would have already engaged with the Gateway Center, through the Gateway Center, is that?
Council Chair, Mr. Chair, and Councilor Lewis, yeah, yes, they will be individuals using one of our Gateway facilities and engaged in services there.
And is there, so I guess how many people right now that are already utilizing the services at Gateway, how many are utilizing those services right now?
Mr. Chair and Councilor Lewis, you mean the services for this program?
Well, I mean, I know this program's not started yet, right? So.
Mr. Chair and Councilor Lewis, this program is going.
So it is going. How long has it been going now?
Mr. Chair and Councilor Lewis, for a little over since January, so almost 2 months.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess give me an update on how well it's going. How many people have taken advantage of the program?
Mr. Chair and Councilor Lewis, to date, we currently have 6 people employed, 1 pending hire, 3 interviews this week, and 35 recommendations going to Duke City ambassadors. As of the first 2 months, 2 employees who started in this program have transitioned over to being employees of Block by Block, so now they're not in the Better Way program. The 2 slots they were filling are now open for 2 more people to come in, and they're being gainfully employed by My Debt Services, which runs Block by Block. And we've also had 2 people who started in the program and were able, because it's a weekly check and it's a stable, steady job, we're able to get enough finances to meet their financial goals, which was to leave Albuquerque and go back to where they were from. And they just didn't have the means to do that. So they were able to get in this program, get the funding, and then move on. So we've had 4 people actually start in the Better Way program, and 2 have transitioned to more gainful employment with My Debt, and 2 that have gone through and now they're somewhere being, moved on, but 6 currently.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chair, so the funding from solid waste, was that in the original bill? Was that the source of the bill that passed last year?
Mr. Chair and Councilor Lewis, the funding had always intended to be from solid waste. That is why we pulled this back. One of the reasons why we wanted to give you the most accurate data and information, so it was just an oversight on our part that it was put the way it was in the first EC.
Okay. And then, so my memory of this program was, it was the outreach was toward people that were, panhandling or people that were on the street, and we would let them know about this program and get them employed for, a brief time. But the outreach was for those that felt like they needed to panhandle and they were in that predicament, that we could immediately get them from being in that situation to a job for, a brief job in that way. So, just seems like right now, we're promoting this program through the gateway, through people that are already taking advantage of those services. Whereas the intention of that program, I think, was, and I think it's when we pass this as well, to be the kind of outreach to those people that were literally on the street and, asking for money, and we were able to provide them, with some money, pretty quickly by giving them a job in that regard. So could you see this program expanding to that, I guess, now, or would that be a part of the outreach as well?
Mr. Chair and Councilor Lewis, the intent of this program takes it a step further than what we were doing before. The original program back when I was at Solid Waste and when I was at Parks and Rec, and we had it, you're correct, was intended for panhandling. Through that, we were able to learn a lot about that program, and then through the pandemic, we started to figure out how can we better help so that the mission isn't just to get them paid for that one day, but to get them sustainable. The other program, as Mr. Freeman expressed, he was able to do it 10 times because they were getting paid daily. So you would pick up somebody every day, not every day, sorry, you could only pick them up once or twice a week until they reached the 10-day threshold, because then it's a $600 and you would have to issue them tax documents. So it gave them money for their pocket for that one day, and then maybe they wouldn't be picked up again for 3 or 4 days. If they were lucky, they could get 2 days a week, which would only give them $120. This program allows them to be gainfully employed while receiving whatever services we have at the gateway to help continue on that path. It offers a lot more stability, and we're able to train, teach, and empower people to move through navigating being unsheltered, but now being able to have gainful employment where they get paid every week. They can work between 32 to 40 hours a week. They have, we've helped some of them get their Social Security cards so that they can take that next step and apply for the next job, whether it be My Debt Services block by block hiring them over, which has already happened twice, or finding another job. And now they have good references, one from the city through the Triple H department, and then one from the employer that they're using now.
Great. Last thing, Mr. Chair. So when this program is just completely, I guess, at its max, I mean, what would be the maximum amount of people at any given time that we'd be able to put to work?
Council Chair and Councilor Lewis, it has capacity for 16 people at a time, but that it doesn't just only affect 16 people. As you can see, we've already affected 4 people, and we have 6 in it because people can rotate in and out as they either find other employment, or they get hired into another position, or they move on. Whatever their financial goals are, goals they have going in.
And are you funded to be able to be at that capacity right now?
Council Chair, Mr. Chair, and Councilor Lewis, we're at kind of capacity right now to see how this program works. But seeing how this works, we can bring in maybe other nonprofits or other businesses that say, hey, we like that program, we would like to help with that program, and seek funding. So we can definitely would like to expand it, but this is the size we have right now, and this is the funding we have to try and get this up and running.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Lewis and then Councilor Pena.
Sanchez.
Sorry, Councilor Sanchez and then Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Another question for the administration. It seems like it's pretty small scale with only 16 participants. Another thing is, I know several years back or a couple years back, I wanted to put together a Job Connect program, which would actually put people to work every single day. And it was optional, not just to the Gateway Center and Gateway West, but to all the public who are experiencing homelessness. Why is it just set up for Gateway West and the Gateway Center?
Mr. Chair and Councilor Sanchez, well, back when we had the old program, the old WEC was functioning, but it wasn't a 24/7 facility, and we didn't have the Gateway Center. So we were having to go locate these people and bring them in the 2 times that they could work a week. We feel that as we move forward, offering it to the people that are utilizing the services there, it allows us to help them continue to move through the path of experiencing homelessness, and allows them to move into that area where they can become housed, they can receive services that they need, and we have the wraparound services also our partners over with My Debt Services know where to locate them, are able to speak to the people there if they're not showing up, and it just helps us overall for the whole process.
Yeah, because you have three, Mr. Chair, we have three counselors that actually were really advocating for something like this, but this doesn't look like what we've talked about over the years. Also, how do you think that $12 per hour is likely to fulfill the participants' need? That's pretty low wage.
Mr. Chair and Councilor Sanchez, it's a starting wage that we can afford, and it's the wage that we set on. But as I spoke about the two people who moved over to My Debt Services, they are now making $14 an hour because they're working for that employer as opposed in this program. So it's the wage that we settled on so that we can try and have the biggest impact for a year.
Thank you. It's a small scale with only 16 participants. And how many people are sitting at Gateway or Gateway West right now?
Council Chair, or Mr. Chair and Councilor Sanchez, I don't have the exact number, but I know that there is upwards of 700 people in our gateway systems, over 700 people in our gateway systems.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just worried about meaningful impact. Can you explain meaningful impact when we have that many people at Gateway Center and only 16 participants in this program?
Mr. Chair and Councilor Sanchez, I think it does have meaningful impact because it has meaningful impact to the two people who were able to relocate as they wanted to when they were unable to because they didn't have housing and they didn't have jobs. I think it has meaningful impact to the two that are now gainfully employed by an employer. I think it's a start to a program that if we continue to have success, we will scale up. We can reach out to partners, but we have to have this information to show how this is working and what's going to help people really move through. It's not our only tool. We have a lot of tools in the toolbox, but this is the program we have for this time.
Thank you.
Councilor Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you recall or may not recall, in the last budget cycle, myself and some other councilors sponsored this. We were actually trying to figure out a way how to get Central cleaned up from one end of Central to the other, and then obviously down to Windrock, down Windrock to Windrock and Coronado Center to get that cleaned up. And so what we did was we sponsored a resolution for the Solid Waste Department to come up with a program to be able to do this with the $600,000. So this is basically a Better Way Forward 2.0, right? So we asked them to go back and kind of come up with some creative solutions. My question related to this is that I think this is fantastic. I'm so glad that we're doing this, and the reason there's only 16 is because only and the people are homeless. I mean, they're homeless. They don't have a home. These are people who have been able to get themselves to a place where they're actually having some shelter and then go on to the next step. So this is part of their continuum of care, I believe. So I think this is really good. I guess my question is for Mr. Whalen. Whalen, I know we talked, and this was really, again, as other councilors stated, it's a small program. If it's successful, hopefully we can fund it at a much higher level. But I know there wasn't this ability to really be able to hire people and get them gainfully employed to cover the entire stretch of Central and along Louisiana. But I did talk to Mr. Gallegos, and I was telling him what my initial idea was about having someone who it was actually their like an FTE or their job, or break it down into 3 FTEs along Central, to really be able to not just be able to pick up trash and do some of those things along Central, but for somebody to drive and use the services that we already have in place, like 311, like APD, like transit, where if the transit stop is messy, if the transit screens are broken, that they report this. If the lights are out on Central, that they report it. And then it just goes into the 311 so that someone's actually monitoring Central, and it's their job to go back and say, hey, well, that light was fixed or it's still not fixed. So if you've talked to Mr. Gallegos, can you kind of give me an update on that? Because if we don't have something on that, I would like to move this to full council without a rec, just so we can figure that little part of it out as well. And this might be the FTEs that are associated with helping our homeless community be successful.
Mr. Chair and Councilor Peña, what we've done with this program is, especially we've identified areas where they can go in and have transportation to work. What we're doing from the solid waste department side is we have other dedicated crews that work the Central corridor. We do have crews that work with transit to help with the medians all throughout Central. So I know we did look at expand that big area that was expansion, and in order to even consider doing that, it was going to be close to $2.5 million, I think is the quote we were going to end up getting. But we already do allocate resources from the solid waste department, and we can definitely expand their scope of what they're doing. But we will also expand some of the things that these employees are doing to include some of the bus stops and some of the art stations along sections of Central.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Councilor Peña, go ahead.
Mr. Chair. Yes, so Mr. Whalen, so my question is that were you able to talk to Mr. Gallegos about the conversation we had related to this funding?
Mr. Chair and Councilor Peña, I have spoken to him about this funding as well as other areas of his budget where we can allocate more resources to the Central corridor and with an expanded area.
Okay, so then I would move this forward, but with the idea that I may try to get the votes to pull it off the agenda, just to have a more comprehensive plan of. I really don't think it's going to require additional budgetary matters, just because I think, again, if we have people.
She broke up. See if she comes back, and then do we lose her altogether? Okay. Councilor Peña, we have a bad connection in case you can hear us. We have a bad connection. We lost you halfway through. I think what she was getting at is if it was going to require any more budget than what's already allocated from solid waste. That's what I'm gathering. Is that what you, Jim? Yes, no? You don't know. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if Councilor Peña can still hear, but I was just informed that the assessments in those areas have already started by the area supervisors from our Clean Cities Division to see how current resources can be reallocated to address some of her concerns as well. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, thank you.
There she is. Okay. Go ahead and finish, Councilor. Or if that answered your question, we're good?
Yes, it did. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Perfect, perfect. Director, I only have a couple of questions. And this, again, just help me clarify this. If this program's already in works and has been in works for a couple months, what approval do you need from us? It's already funded, it's already moving forward.
Mr. Chair, we set down the EC so that to comply with what was asked for by council.
Okay, well, Director, that doesn't, because it came through. We passed a resolution, and you guys came with this program. We said this isn't what we intended. And go back to the drawing board, and your answer never came to us. You came out with this program. So this doesn't work with what the resolution was intended. You're interpretation of that resolution was this. And we said, no, that's not it. Please come back again. So I'm assuming that this, and we talked about this, this is what your answer is, but it doesn't fulfill what this board had advised. So if you're already implemented a program, but it doesn't meet what the resolution says or what's being recommended or asked of you guys, I asked again, maybe a twofold question. What happens to the resolution that isn't being, in this board's opinion, followed? And why are you on approval of a program you've already submitted or you already implemented?
Council Chair, so the executive communication, we originally sent one down. Some time has lapsed since then. We wanted to provide more updated information. This is an executive communication. We believe we are fulfilling the resolution, and I respect that there seems to be a bit of a difference in what we are doing and what you believe you asked us to do in the resolution, but this is an executive communication, and I believe, and I could defer to our attorney, I believe this is either an accept or reject at this point. But we are here to tell you this is the program that we're doing. We believe it fulfills the requirement of the resolution, and I think we have some success stories out of this program that is definitely an update from the original program from many years ago.
I agree, it's obviously successful. It's showing that it is. 2 people have moved on to regular deal. I respectfully disagree that it's not following in line what was expressed that we were looking for. This isn't a day labor, this is a job. The day labor was to hire several different people for the day. This is employing people for 40 hours a week. That's a big difference in what was said and what's being implemented.
And Council Chair, we're open to having discussions about this. Again, the EC is before you. We're open to having discussions, but I do believe the discussions we have had amongst ourselves, talking about, there's folks, that we have folks from the public that have had experience with the old program. We've got, our staff that have been around and have had experience with the old program. And, the term day labor and the way the program operated before, we didn't have the gateway operating 24/7. We definitely have folks there that have made a choice to come into the gateway system. They are, trying their best, I'm sure, every day to make a better life for themselves, and we want to give them those opportunities. The old day labor program, when we talk about some of the real challenges and the problems with it, it was very, very limited, the number of people that we could employ. Many of the folks, I'm sure, I don't have a lot of experience with it, but as we've talked about it, we have some folks that really benefited from it, but I have a feeling there are a lot of folks that did not benefit as much as, didn't get the bang for the buck that we will get out of this new program. And I get, day labor, you pick somebody up, you put them to work for a day, they have money for a day. That doesn't help them with their documentation, right? If they need a Social Security card in order to comply with our I-9 requirements, it doesn't help in that respect. We pick them up, we give them a job, we pay them up to $600 for the year, and then we're done. If they benefit from it or benefited from that old program, that's great. But we really see this, again, as a better way forward. It's a better program. It's well thought out, and it's scalable, much more scalable than the day labor program that we've had in the past.
I'm CFO, I'm not going to disagree that the program is good, and I do see the downfalls of the old program. The hang-up I keep having is the instructions and the result. And maybe what I'm looking for from you is just, I understand the instructions, we're not going to be able to fulfill those, and then how do you kill or close out that resolution? Because we're not going to be able to fulfill it because it isn't feasible. I'm looking for some sort of resolution on that, an ending of that, or some sort of deal. Maybe that's what I'm looking for, because what was asked twice isn't being fulfilled. It is a program. It is a great idea. It's very beneficial. It fulfills it accomplishes the other pitfalls, the other one of W-2s and finding people and driving around because it's all centered. That's understandable, but it isn't what was asked. It was a different program. So, and again, maybe you can't answer this now, or council can answer that. It's
Mr. Chairman, I can chime in on that.
Councilor Pena, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think when we drafted the resolution, we were drafting it after the first A Better Way Forward, so which was a day program. So I think maybe what you're saying is that I wish they would have presented it to us before they had initiated the program, which I guess I would agree with that, just because of some of the fulfillment. What some of the idea was to fulfill a bigger picture thing while being able to help people who were experiencing homelessness, right? So the fact that they changed it into somebody being able to be gainful.
Lost her again. She does make sense. She does. I think we lost her, but she does make sense. You're right. And that kind of went into my one question of why are we approving this if you've already implemented? But again, this is going to go on to full council and you'll probably get these questions again. I'll move on to my questioning. So this is just kind of thing. It's a 40-hour-a-week job, basically.
Mr. Chair, they can go from 32 up to 40 hours.
Okay, so 30 to 40, part-time to full-time. And services are provided to them to help them get documentation or housing and so on and so forth they get from the Gateway, right?
Mr. Chair, correct.
Okay, and those services are provided 24 hours a day?
Mr. Chair, the Gateway Center, Gateway West is open 24 hours, 7 days a week.
But a counselor for housing is available 24 hours. It's available at 10 p.m., 7 p.m., 6 a.m., or if I'm involved in the program and I need paperwork, social security number, there's somebody at 8 p.m. that can help provide that?
Mr. Chair, I would have to get back to you on that. I don't think so. They're set throughout the day or on days when they're not working.
That brings to me my question. If I'm working 40 hours a week or 30 hours a week, when am I going to be able to take advantage of those services if I have a full-time job?
Mr. Chair, so the way the program works is our partners, they'll work with them. So if, for instance, if you needed a Wednesday afternoon because you have an appointment with somebody, they would allow them to take that time off. Also, we're working with them to see that it's not just a Monday through Friday program. It's, they may work Tuesday through Saturday. So those days, our contractor is working hand in hand with Triple H so that if those services are needed at a certain time, they can be available for that individual.
Okay, so their hours are adjusted and you use the right term as far as time off to do that, so they wouldn't be paid while they're sitting in services?
Mr. Chair.
Consulting.
Mr. Chair, not at this time.
Okay. Director, what is the long-term goal of this?
Mr. Chair, I think the long-term goal is to get people through the system, get them gainfully employed and ultimately housed and back on their feet.
Councilors, any further questions, discussion? Councilor Pena, anything? Nope. Then we will move to the vote.
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Oh, no, there she is. Yes,
I
Councilor
think
Pena.
Councilor Pena is probably going to say that the motion, she made a motion for.
She did, and I have that, yes. Yes, thank you for the reminder, Councilor Pena. There was a motion to move forward without recommendation, I believe.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Baca. We go and vote on without recommendation first.
Councilor Baca?
Yes.
Councilor Lewis?
Yes.
Councilor Pena?
Yes.
Councilor Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilor Champagne?
No.
Passes on a 4-1 vote.
And we're back on the bill. I don't think it'd be as amended because we didn't really amend it, it's just without recommendation. Is that correct? Okay. So we'll go to the vote on the bill then.
We already did.
We did it without, okay, so it's moved forward. Okay, so it isn't like an amendment where I have to do both. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item on the agenda, item F. This is 067, amending Article 11 of the City of Albuquerque Code of Ordinances to improve the city's budget proposal process and strengthen oversight and accountability measures. This motion is intended to be deferred till April 14th. With that being said, due to the intent to defer, there will not be an option on discussion or comment of it. We will just move to vote for the deferral till April 14th.
Second.
Second by Counselor Sanchez. And the
Counselor
vote.
Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Lewis?
Yes.
Counselor Peña?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Champagne?
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
Perfect. And the final one is item G. Item G is R120. R120 is directing the city administration to enhance enforcement efforts related to existing rental unit habitability standards. I move for a due pass. Second by Counselor Baca and Peña. 2 and 1. Mrs. Stiles. Or Ms. Stiles, sorry.
Mr. Chair and committee members, this resolution directs the administration to enhance enforcement of rental unit habitability standards. It highlights concerns about unsafe living conditions in rental housing, such as heating, plumbing, and pest issues. The resolution emphasizes the need for timely code enforcement, prioritizing tenant complaints, and creates a dedicated code enforcement officer position. It also mandates regular reporting on complaint investigations and includes a directive to maintain funding for the position in future budgets with the goal of ensuring safer rental housing and improving enforcement efficiency.
Thank you, Ms. Stiles. Counselor Peña.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is actually Councilor Feeblecorn's bill, and I noticed that she is on the call. I would like to call on her to explain the bill, if she will.
Mr. Cornelius? Counselor Feeblecorn, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for giving me a minute to speak. I can just give you a quick overview if that's what you'd like.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this bill really just says that we are going to have a person dedicated to tenant concerns in the planning department. One of the things that we've heard over and over again from folks in the community is that they have, really bad things like no air conditioning, no heating, no running water, and that this goes on for quite some time with some landlords. And so this is just creating a position in the planning department that can really help those folks make it through this process so that they can get quicker resolution to kind of life safety issues within their rental.
Thank you, Counselor Feeblecorn. Counselors, any other discussion or questions, concerns, comments? All right, I only have, I believe, 19, so I'm kidding. Nice face, you just stood there. These actions are already being done, correct? I mean, we have code enforcement that goes out and looks at these things. Is that correct?
Council or committee chair, yes, code enforcement has some efforts related to this, but certainly a dedicated person who could or a dedicated FTE who could focus more solely on landlord-tenant issues specifically.
Okay.
As we've, heard, I think we've filled this room with folks sharing their horror stories of their interactions. So we're supportive of this, and we appreciate the counselor's efforts on this. Thank you.
Is one going to be enough?
Committee Chair, we would ask that we start with one, and we can come back to you and report on those efforts. I know the counselor that is bringing this forward will certainly be asking us for that information, and will really be involved in how the work is going and what the effect of it is. So, the counselor has come forward with one FTE, and I say we give it a try, and we see if we need to expand from there based on the data.
Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you. One of the questions I have, and maybe Councilor Feeblecorn could help me out with it, what I'm looking at is I don't see a breakdown of what exactly are we looking at. I know what it's like to rent properties, and I know what it's like to actually be a landlord. And what I'm worried about is are we going to be overstretching our enforcement on some of these folks? What's the whole breakdown on whether the landlord can be into compliance, and if there's an issue, how long is the compliance? I don't see any of that broken down in the bill at this point. So I just want to make sure that all of those questions are answered, so that I know we need some regulation and some enforcement in this area, but we also could overstep our boundaries. So I just want to make sure that we're not doing that.
Director, CFO.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Councilor Pena. I'm sorry,
Mr.
Councilor.
Chair, I'd like to call on Councilor Feeblecorn.
Okay, Councilor Feeblecorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councilor Sanchez, for the question. So this bill is not changing any of the requirements for landlords. We know that we already have in our statutes requirements for fixing heating, running water, providing hot water, providing air conditioning now, thanks to this council. And so those are already in current statute. This does not add to that at all. What this bill does is say that now that we have all of these things that are required, we need to have someone who's dedicated within the planning department to make sure that those issues as they arise are dealt with. And so again, there doesn't change any of the timing that is required under existing law, just giving a person in the planning department who is dedicated to helping tenants resolve those issues within the existing law.
Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Councilor Feeblecorn. Also, let's say something goes through and our newly added code enforcement officer finds something that he thinks is important. Is there an appeal process or a way for the landlord to correct it and then appeal that? Whatever it might be, a citation or whatever the enforcement issue would be?
Mr. Chair, Councilor Sanchez, there are appeal mechanisms within the housing code already, so they would still have that available to them.
Thank you.
Councilor Lewis.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we move this to the full council without recommendation.
Without recommendation. Second by Bach. Just kind of a clerical question. It's in here to move for immediate action. How does that change when it's without recommendation?
Mr. Chair, I'm fine with immediate action, but
okay,
move it without recommendation for immediate action, correct?
Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, Councilor Lewis, yes, the committee can vote on the without recommendation, and then once that vote is complete, then you can vote on immediate action.
So it'd be 2 votes then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I believe we do have a public speaker on it. Mr. Cornelius.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have Anami Das to speak.
Hi, all. Mr. Chair. This resolution is actually pretty, it's pretty cool because of the emphasis on remediation rather than citation and punishment for landlords. I have a bit of a confession to make, but I used to work for a lawyer who represented landlords who were exclusively evicting tenants. Tragic backstory, all that, and made me into what I am now. But the enforcement and like the code, everything, when I was working with property managers, I would hear from them that there were delays coming from, this is a different city, but there were delays coming from the city because they weren't a business rental, they were a, housing rental. This would help bridge that gap that most cities have, and it would help tenants who are renting their house instead of their business handle their stuff like faster. Also, more jobs is always better. Thanks, y'all.
Mr. Chair, thank you. That concludes comment.
Thank you, Mr. Cornelius. I kind of agree there. Obviously, there's a lot of questions, and we talk about adding more people on and the costs and appeals and such like that. But I think dedicating someone to go after the landlords that are, for lack of better terms, giving the rest of the renter landlord people a bad name is great in that sense, because we do hear a lot of stories in sense of those landlords out there that don't provide a sound establishment or home for people to rent from. So I full-heartedly support this and hope that it can be very successful in getting those the people out there that aren't following the rules. Oh, my time's up. I tried. But get those ones that aren't following the rules and putting out the bad name to the rest of us. You know, get those in line. So I do have a motion on the floor for a do pass without recommendation. And a second. And without any further discussion, we'll go to the vote for that.
Councilor Baca.
Yes.
Councilor Lewis.
Yes.
Councilor Peña.
Yes, if I understand the motion.
Councilor Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilor Champagne.
Yes.
This is on a 5-0 vote.
And committee, we do have a motion or a request for immediate action, so I'll move for immediate action. Need a second for it?
Second.
Second by Councilor Baca. I don't think we need to discuss immediate action. We'll just go to the vote.
Councilor Baca. Yes. Councilor Lewis.
Yes.
Councilor Peña. Councilor Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilor Champagne.
Yes.
Passes on a 5-0 vote.
And that being the last item on the agenda, there being no more business, this Finance and Government Operation Committee meeting is adjourned.